posted this picture and with this caption, and I got this comment. So I had to let sis know I cook from scratch. I made everything from scratch but the noodles. And so I decided, I had already recorded the video, so I decided why not just go ahead and post it to let you all know how you can quickly upgrade some noodles as well. I promise you, it is not that hard. The gag is about plating, okay? The ingredients of this video are so simple. It's so easy to do. I promise you, it's not even that deep. It's just about how you plate things that makes it look like 5-star. Even me cooking my pork belly was just not that difficult at all. So anyway, let's jump right in. Let me show you how you can upgrade your noodles and eat like you are at a 5-star Asian cuisine restaurant too. One thing I did not record was how I prepped my pork belly. What you see here is a pork belly that has been slow and low roasted in the oven for 3 hours on 275. Now, prior to me putting it in the oven for 3 hours on 275, I actually put it in a salt bath. And what a salt bath does is draw out all of that extra moisture from the skin of the pork belly. The importance of this is to have the skin of the pork belly crisp up, and you want as much moisture out of it as possible. Now what you see me doing is putting the pork belly skin down into some vegetable oil. The purpose again of this is to allow that pork belly skin to really crisp up like chicharrones. Chicharrones are like skins, basically pork skins. If you know what pork skins are, or chicharrones, depending on, what your culture is or whatever, you get the point. And so one thing I will say here, I have this on medium heat, and I really would have, my stove goes in numbers, and I have this on about a 6, and I really wish I had put it on about a 4 to allow that skin to puff up gradually and cook through a little bit more. So that's basically the entire thing for the pork belly, aside from making the sauce that the pork belly will go in later. But again, this part was very simple. I put it in the oven for 3 hours on 275, and then once it came out of the oven, I put it in some oil to get that nice crispy skin. If you've ever watched any of my cooking content, you know that I am one to take a quick cleaning break in the middle of the video because I just can't cook in a messy kitchen. I can't cook with food residue everywhere. So a quick cleaning break here. And we're back. At this point, I am only putting on some water to boil some eggs. Full disclosure, I actually don't even really care for the egg portion of ramen. I'm not a big egg fan. But for aesthetics and tradition, I did boil some eggs. Now, my guests that I had lunch with that day, they rather enjoyed the eggs. But me personally, it's not my favorite. At this point, I'm going to chop up some scallions. I am sure to keep the green and the white portion separated. And now I'm making my sauce. Now, I started putting things in without showing you all, but I realized what I was doing, and so I went back and I showed you all the ingredients. For the honey glazed pork belly, you're going to put in 3 tablespoons of sesame oil. Now, I do have the toasted sesame oil, but you don't have to spring for that if you don't want. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar. 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce. What I didn't show though was me putting the honey in, and that's something that you're gonna kind of just measure based on your liking. And I put about maybe about 3/4 of a cup, but you're gonna have to just kind of do that based on how sweet you want it to be. Now you will add a tablespoon of each of these ingredients. You have ground ginger, white pepper, and then you have the Chinese 5 spice. I'm going to whisk in all of those spices and then also add a tablespoon of minced garlic and just let that sit on low, simmer on low for the remainder of your cooking process, and also be sure to whisk it occasionally. Now we're going to start working on our ramen toppings. The first thing that I cooked was my mushrooms, and I seasoned those with Himalayan pink salt. You can use whatever kind of salt you like, but I prefer Himalayan pink salt. And then I also put some garlic powder in there. After your pork belly sauce has simmered for about 10 minutes, you're going to want to drop your pork belly skin up into that sauce and allow it to continue to simmer on low and just soak up that beautiful sweet sauce. Now I'm moving on with my kale that I also will be topping my ramen with. I cooked it just the same as I did with my mushrooms with Himalayan pink salt and garlic powder. I let that reduce down, much like spinach does, very simple. Now for the easiest step, let's cook our ramen. So this seasoning is optional. I love Flavor God. I'm using his everything seasoning, but I also put in the water all of the seasonings that I use for the pork belly sauce. The ginger, the ground white pepper, and the 5-spice seasoning. You're going to take regular ramen noodles, the 25-cent pack, and drop them in the water that you have seasoned with all those spices. The cooking time on your ramen is strictly up to your desires. Now, some people say that I eat my noodles raw because I don't like really mushy noodles and they expand. And once those noodles expand, I can't eat them. So my cook time is fairly quickly, but you cook them to your desired texture. Me personally, I try not to cook them that long. So at this point, I'm going to plate the noodles and pour some of that broth that we have created into the bowl with the noodle. You will then add the seasoning pack from the noodle into the noodles as well and stir that in. As for the noodle toppings, I like to put everything in parallel lines. So I started with my mushrooms. You can really start with whatever you want to start with, honestly. But I started with my mushrooms and then I put my kale right next to that in a parallel line. And then I topped it with my scallions. So now you see me slicing up the pork belly and then kind of putting it back into that sauce. While the pork belly continues to simmer and in that glaze, you're going to want to peel your eggs. Again, I don't really care for the egg portion, but to each his own. I also hate peeling eggs. I really do. But aesthetically, it looks really beautiful on the plate, to be honest. But it's just not. I don't like the work of it, and I also just don't really care for the flavor of it. So you're almost done here. You're just gonna flip that meat over, the pork belly over into that glaze. Let it continue to stick to the pork belly. And you're gonna let that glaze for about 10 minutes or so. Or really until the sauce is at the consistency that you like, because you may want a looser sauce, you may want a stickier sauce. That really just depends on your preference. Me personally, I like a stickier sauce. And voila, there you are, a very simple meal. I'm going to do a second video on how I made the spring rolls and peanut sauce. That too was still very simple. The entire thing for me was just really quick, really easy. Definitely a 10 out of 10, would certainly recommend. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I absolutely love cooking. I probably will do some more recipes, more cooking content. But if you have any recommendations or things that you would just like to see how I make, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm certainly open to doing so. As always, be kindness, love, and light. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.